Hi, today I'm gonna show you how to knit this two-tone raglan sweater with flower lace stitch. Let's get started. Please check my description box for all the details. I put pretty much everything down there, including the link for Rivalry. You can go there and download my written pattern. If you don't want to download anything, don't worry about it. I include the written pattern in my description box. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna show you how to knit this beautiful flower lace stitch raglan sweater. Okay, this one is not flower really. I call it leaf because I want to distinguish in between flower and the other design. Anyway, this is top-down sweater, as you can see, increasing after the neck rib. Then, whenever you done increasing, knit the body part. It's beautiful lace flower design. As you can see, I changed the color with Fair Isle. You don't need to. Then the bottom part, again, flower and leaf. Looks a little bit like a cable design, but it's not. Just a regular lace stitch. Before we start, let me introduce the designer for this beautiful flower lace stitch. I got this free chart in Pinterest, and I asked the designer for permission to use this design for my free YouTube channel, and she says no problem. So I used this design on my sweater. I changed a little bit though. So if you like to see the chart, please go there. I put the link in my description box. If you want to use only flower design, you must use her chart because my pattern, there's one extra stitch. If you're interested, ask me about it. Next, the color of yarn. I use little darker green. But if you want the design more visible, you should use light color of yarn so you can see design better. And the color transition part. I use Fair Isle technique, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Next, bind off. I use super stretchy bind off this time because I knit quite fitted sweater, so the especially bottom part has to be super stretchy. However, this is, size adjustable, customized sweater, so you don't really have to follow my instruction. You can change the size, right? So you must knit your swatch at least 4" by 4" and count stitch count and row count. Mine 20 stitches and 29 rows within 4" square. And let's move on to the math part. I'll show you how I did. All right? Hey, I open up my math gauge template. If you haven't downloaded this template, unfortunately, you can't not download it anymore because I took my website down at the end of the January. So if you don't have this template, you have to do your math manually, or there is gauge calculator online, so you can use that too. All right, so let's find out my cast on number. First of all, in this red section, I'm going to input my swatch information. I needed it, bigger enough to count stitches and rows within 4 inch. So my swatch is 4 inch by 4 inch and 20 stitches within 4 inch and 29 rows within 4 inch. This is my swatch. And let's move on to this section. The top one says find out stitch count from the length. This top one I'm going to use to find out my cast on number. Okay, my actual neck size is 12-inch around. Okay, however, I am going to use one size smaller needle. This gauge is with 4mm, and I am going to use 3mm for neck ribbon. My neck ribbon is 1 by 1, so it will shrink a bit. So I'm not going to put the 12 because I will be choked, right? So I have to add more inches for my neck opening. So I would say 19. This is your favor, preference. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to make bigger neck opening, you can go with 20, 22, whatever. And if you really want to know how much it will shrink, you might have to knit some swatch and make sure. Okay? So I'm going to put the 19 inches. That's my desired neck opening. So this is yellow section. Let's go down. Yellow section. 95. All right. And let's go down, way down. And this pink section, it says multiple of whatever, which is 12, because I want you to pick the number multiple of 12. So I put the 12 here and enter. And there you go. I have to now look for the number close to 95, which is here, 96. So my cast on number is 96. One more thing I want you to actually think about it, the flower design. Flower design complete on row 48 from top to down. So I have to make sure one thing. So right here, it says find out the length from the row count. I know the row count, 48 I said. So I'm going to put 48 here. Okay, so this is blue section. Let's go down blue, 48 row count. Target height is 6.6. The reason why I made sure about this number, because this is top-down sweater. Okay, neck and then increase, and after you finish increasing, separate the sleeve, then knit the body, then add in the design, right? But when to add the flower design, this is your answer. So I have to kind of start 6.6 inches before the rib starts. So you kind of have to use your imagination. First of all, you have to kind of find out your target length with rib and think about the rib, how much you want, and kind of, think backwards. Then you have to start adding the design. You know what I'm saying? So the target goal is 6.6 inches before the rib starts. You know, the bottom rib I'm talking about. So again, the flower design complete on row number 48. So with my gauge, okay, to complete 48 rows, I will knit 6.6 inches. Okay, so you better make sure about this number. All right, so let's move on to actual knitting. I use this yarn, and also I use quite thinner needle, but it's all up to you. Cast on. According to my math, my cast on number is 96, or your number with multiple of 12. It's really up to you, right? How big you want for your neck rib, and you gotta do your math. And after the cast on, you will connect both ends and knit in round. So make sure it's not twisted and you're facing to right side. Put the begin marker and one by one ribbon, but use knit back loop, then regular purl. So repeat of knit back loop and purl 1. Just repeat knit back loop and purl 1 until your desired length. You have to be very careful on first row, because if you make a mistake on the first row, you ruin one by one ribbon. Okay? And I want you to use knit back loop for your neck rib because it's coming at the bottom of the flower design. Okay, so you better use knit back loop for your neck. And I knitted it about 3.5 inch. And I'm gonna do double neck. So fold the neck rib inward and first stitch starting with knit back loop. So the wrong side should be purl. So go straight down, pick up the bottom of the stitch, and then knit 2 together. Okay, and next pick up the next stitch, bottom of the next stitch, and knit 2 together. You don't really have to do, repeat knit 2 together and purl 2 together. Just use the knit 2 together to, connect both edge. And it's a little bit tight, so take your time. Also, if you pick up the wrong stitch at the bottom of the rib, it's gonna be shifting. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you go straight down and pick up the same line stitch. All right, so just take your time. And it's done. Nice and straight and no more raw edge. Now, we would like to add some markers. Where you have begin marker is the center of your back. count evenly and split in half. You add side marker, back and front. All right? And I am going to work on only back piece. All right? Where the beginning marker is, center of your back. And now I am going to raise the back of the neck. Just go back and forth, back and forth. Technique called Japanese show roll. And in the center of the back will be thicker. The side is thinner. So here is my old sweater that I knitted it, right? So as you can see, the back piece is 1.5 inches higher than front piece. This fits you better. So now you can see from the side towards to center of the back, it's thicker and thicker. And using short row. You can actually use the German short row or any other short row, but I'm going to use Japanese short row because it's easier for me to explain. So let's do little math for JSR. You have to decide how many rows you want to add in the center of your back. And it has to be even number and maybe 1.5 inches worth. So I decide 12 rows I want to increase. And half of the cast on for me is 48. 96 divided by 2 is 48, right? So 48 divided by 12 is 4. So my short row base number is 4. You got to remember that. And now I have to change the needle as well. Okay, so 4mm needle starting from the biggie marker, obviously, and going towards the left, which is knitting side. So knit until the side marker. All right, this is gap row number 1, knitting side. Okay, and the reason why I said gap, because when I turn the work, you create the gap. That's why I call it gap row. Anyway, so I turn the work. Okay, I create the gap and yarn front. Okay, working yarn front. Make sure about it. And then slip 1 purlwise. You're on purl side, okay? And put the temporary marker right on the working yarn, hold it, and then start making purl. That's it, okay? And purl all the way to the other side of the side marker. This is gap row number 2. Okay? Here comes. This is almost the end of the purl side, right? And purl until the other side of the marker. Here comes. And turn the work. And I create the gap. This is row number 3. Yarn back. Slip 1 purlwise. Put the temporary marker right on the working yarn. Hold it, okay? And then start knitting. That's it. There we go. And knit until, okay, 4 stitch from the gap you create in previous row. Okay, so I just count 4 stitch from the gap, the first gap, and I add markers. There's tons of markers, and you should use different color of marker if it's necessary, because it's easy to see, right? So the JSR marker, this side is orange, and the purple is for indication for when to stop. Okay, so now I start knitting, right? And once I knit 4 stitch from the gap, I add indication marker. That'll be easier. I don't have to count all the time, right? So now knit until that indication purple marker. Don't you think this is easy? Anyway, turn around. Remove the indication marker, and this is purl side. Yarn front, slip 1 purlwise, and orange marker. Put it right on the working yarn. Hold it. Don't lose it, because you need that marker close to the project. And then start making purl. And you just have to repeat row number 3 and row number 4. So now I just knit 4 from the gap I just created, and add purple marker, which is indication marker, right? When to stop. So just purl until that pink indication marker now, which is 4 stitch from the last gap. And I said I'm going to repeat row number 3 and row number 4. So turn around and you're facing to knitting side. So the working yarn at the back, yarn back, slip 1 purlwise, hook onto the marker, then start knitting. Until when? Okay. My target row count is 12, right? Don't you remember? 12 rows has to be even number, which means I have 6 marker both side, total of 12. So whenever you put 6 each, or the target row count, that's the time you stop. Okay? For me, 12 divided by 2, which is 6. So 6 marker on left side and 6 marker on right side, total of 12. That's the time I have to stop. So here comes. I just add few more, and this is probably end. I see the purple marker, so I gotta do one more for sure. There you go. Turn around and yarn front, slip 1 purlwise. This is the purl side, which is gap row number 4. And just keep making purl. There we go. And this is pink marker coming, so which means this is the indication marker. Turn around. Okay. And then this will be my last gap purl. when you put the last marker, for me 12th marker, you go back to begin marker. There we go. Can you see? Towards the mid, center, more rows. Towards the side, less rows. This is the raise your back. Now, closing the gap, which is knit until the gap. This is knit inside, right? And pull that marker, hook onto left needle, remove the marker, and then knit two together. So I create extra stitch right on the gap and then knit two together to close the gap. There we go. Now I knit till gap, pull the marker, hook onto left needle to create the one extra stitch, and now knit two together to decrease that extra stitch and close the gap. All right, so let's do that. Knit until the gap. So you have to pass that marker and then pull that hook and hook onto left needle and knit two together. So this, the marker is just the indication of which thread you have to pick and make extra stitch. That's it. And this way you never miss and you never get confused which thread you're picking up. You know what I'm saying? There we go. Almost done. Remove it and then knit two together. So I see there's one more, obviously. So knit until the gap. So this is side, right? So I remove the side marker and hook onto left and I do knit two together to close it. And now this is important. Now you gotta go back the other side, which is purl side, which means I turn around and I create the gap here. You know what I'm saying? Right here. So when you turn, you create the gap. So I gotta do last JSR. Okay? But this is only for this side because after the, short row, I'm going to knit in round. So remember, this side, you can do last JSR. All right? So purl until the first gap. This time, you're facing to purl side, so I'm making purl. So what you have to do is, this is the gap, pull the marker and hook onto left needle and remove the marker and purl two together. Not knit two together because this is purl side. Easy. So just purl until next gap and then do the same thing. There we go. Pull, hook on, remove the marker, and then purl two together to decrease one extra stitch you just create and also close the gap. Super easy. But the only difference is, okay, when I finish closing the gap on purl roll, you gotta turn around, and I wanna knit on knitting side, right side, right? So obviously when I turn the project, I'm gonna create one more gap. However, I'm not gonna knit on wrong side anymore. So do a little bit differently. Okay? So anyway, let's finish this gap. Purl until the gap, and then pull the marker, hook onto left needle, remove it, and purl two together to close it. And here comes, I can see the red side marker now. Okay, so almost there. Hang in there. Here comes. Pull, hook on, remove the marker, but I forgot to remove the side marker, so I did, and do it again. There you go. And purl two together. Now, you turn around, okay? No. You do make one left purl before you turn around, okay? So hook onto left needle. This is still purl side, okay? And then make one left purl from back and back loop. Make purl. I just create one extra stitch with make one left purl and add side marker to make sure there is gap here, okay? Because sometimes, people forget. So start knitting back to begin marker. This is end of short row. After this, we're going back to knit in round and increasing kicks in. But before we start increasing, we have to add markers. And finally, it's done. Can you see? Beautifully raise the back of the neck. Now, prep row, just on it and close that leftover gap and add in raglan marker. Let's do little math again for raglan marker. Your base number is whole stitch divided by 6. Mine, 96 divided by 6 is 16. That's your base number. Okay? So back piece and front piece, base number times 2. So for me, 32 stitches each, back and front. So you have to count evenly from the begin marker. Again, begin marker is center of the back. And sleeves, base number times 1. Okay? And you add 4 markers. Okay? Right now, I'm knitting half of the back piece, right? So I knit 16 and then add 1 marker. That's the first raglan mark. And next, I'm knitting sleeve. However, there's the leftover JSR. So don't forget, pull the side marker, which is, last short row marker. And then this is knitting, so knit 2 together. And then start counting. Sleeve is base number times 1. So for me, 16. And another raglan marker. And here comes leftover short row gap. But I made one extra already with make one left purl. So you just have to knit 2 together after the marker. That's it. All right. So I close 2 leftover gap. Now I finish adding marker. I just want to make sure, okay, where the beginning marker is, that's the back piece, right? And you know what I'm saying, because it's raised a little bit. That's the back piece. Okay? So to the right and left. And then both sleeves kicks in, which is base number times 1, and rest of them should be front piece. So you have 4 raglan marker and 1 begin marker. Okay? You will increase both side of the raglan marker. The begin marker is not raglan marker. So do not increase around begin marker. It's going to be different shape if you do. Okay? So on the increasing row, right and left side of the raglan marker, which means you have 4 raglan marker. Total of 8 stitch increase in one row. All right, so let's start. Increasing row number 1, super easy. Again, begin marker, do not increase. So knit until one last stitch before the marker. And before the marker means right side of the marker. So you do make one right. Okay, so let's see. Just knit all the way until one last stitch before the marker. Here comes. There we go. And in previous row, previous stitch, right side of the previous stitch, you pull and hook onto left needle like that and knit front loop. That's make one right. I'm not using running thread this time, and pass the marker, and this time you can pick left side of the stitch in previous, so you knit one first, then okay, left side of in previous, which means 2 down, okay, because the 1 down is the one you just create. So 2 down and left side of the stitch you hook onto, and then knit that extra. I will show you one more time, so don't worry about it. Let's do make one right now. So right side of the previous stitch you pull and hook onto left needle like that. I create one stitch, right? And then knit front loop. This is make one right. And then make one left. After slide the marker, knit one stitch. And 2 down of the stitch you just knit. Left side, pick up. There we go, like that. And then knit back loop. This is make one left. Okay, and you increase every marker like that. And row number 2, just on it. And repeat row number 1 and row number 2 until the length is enough. Okay, enough means that length meet under your armpit. Okay, that's the time you have to stop and finish on row number 2. And now I have to separate the sleeve from the body and count only front and back stitch count. I have 156 stitches total, only for front and back. And now I have to think about new cast I'm adding after I separate the sleeve. Okay? And it has to be multiple of 6 after the new cast underneath of your armpit, because Fair Isle design. Fair Isle design is multiple of 6, repeat of 6 stitch. So after adding the new cast under armpit has to be multiple of 6. Okay? Right now I have 156. 156 is actually multiple of 6. So if I add 6 stitches each armpit, that'll be multiple of 6. However, we have to think about this flower design for later. This is multiple of 34. Okay, so first of all, I have 156 stitch count, front and back, plus I'm thinking I'm adding 12 total for the connection part under armpit. That'll be 168. Okay, remember that. An example of multiple of 34 is 102, 136, 170, 204, and so on. So 168 is close to 170. So this is actually right move. Even though if I add 8 stitch each side, still close to 170. You know, something like that. So as much as possible, you should pick the number close to multiple of 34. However, if not, don't worry about it. It's easy to, adjust the number later anyway. Anyway, so this is the separation of the sleeve. Just knit until the sleeve. And then transfer all the sleeve stitch onto scrap yarn. That's how you do that. And then after that, you add whatever new cast. For me, 6. And this number should be even number because it's easy to, split in half later. I'll talk about it. Anyway, so now start knitting front piece after I add 6 new cast. Okay? And then you do exactly same thing for the other side. And after you knit complete one round, I should have 168 stitch count. There you go. 168 is multiple of 6. So I'm ready for next Fair Isle. Okay? But I don't want to, do the Fair Isle right away because under armpit is just a new cast and it's not really stable. So I need 6 rows. This is actually up to you. And then I am going to start Fair Isle. Again, if you don't want to do Fair Isle, you don't need to. So you just switch the color of yarn, or you don't even change the color. You can do the solid color. Okay? So don't worry about it. Now, color transition fair isle. Super easy. Okay? Just repeat of Y means yellow, G means green. So 2 yellow and then 1 green and then 3 yellow. This is repeat of 6 stitch. This is the reason why it has to be multiple of 6. Okay? And you just repeat. And row number 6 is the end of color transition. Okay? I don't have to show you everything. If you never did the, the fair isle and you're not comfortable with, don't do it. And after this, you just have to knit until the flower design starts. And while you're knitting and round, you have to adjust the numbers, which is now you need stitch count multiple of 34. I have 168 after the new cast, and the number close to multiple of 34 is 170. I talk about that, which means I have to increase 2 more stitch before flower design starts. And I knitted it about 1 inch after the color transition because that's where I want to start flower design. Okay, why? Because flower design finish on row number 48. And with my gauge, 48 rows is about 6.5 inches. So I have to start the flower design 6.5 inches before the rib. Do you understand? That's the flower. And 48 and leaf design is about the half. Okay, because I'm going to start leaf design when the row number 25 of the flower design. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna just say 48 rows before the rib. That's when you want to start flower design. You know what I'm saying? And please add markers every 17 stitches. Both flower and leaf design has 17 stitches. And I'll go with flower and leaf, flower and leaf. All right? So, flower row number 1. Easy. Knit 8, purl 1, and knit 8. And please start with flower design. And then next will be leaf design, 17 stitches, which is super easy because leaf design, row number 1 to row number 24, just all knit. All right? So in this case, row number 1, just worry about the, flower design. Okay? So you just have to repeat flower design and leaf design. So start with flower and end with leaf design. And I'm going to just show you the key point. Flower design, row number 5, knit 6 to start. And key point is here. Yarn over in between knit stitch to purl stitch. Okay? Knit 2 together. And then it says yarn over, then double yarn over with some bracket, which means if you just put the yarn out front, then purl, that's regular yarn over. So you have to do yarn over, in this case, 1 out front and then 1 more. That's why I say double yarn over. Okay, so from knit to purl, yarn over, you have to do double yarn over. And now you have to do yarn over from purl to knit. Okay, so if it's purl, then yarn over, which means yarn back, but the next stitch is knit. So keep the yarn front. Okay, it says yarn over, but the yarn has to be front and then SSK. All right, so usually regular pattern says only yarn over, and double yarn over or just keep the yarn front, you have to think. But in my pattern, I add how to move your working yarn within the bracket. So if you get confused, please see my written pattern. So now I do that again. Knit two together and then yarn over, but next stitch is purl. So double yarn over and purl one. You know what I'm saying? And then keep the yarn front, okay? Keep the yarn front and then SSK. So if you don't like me to say double yarn over or yarn front, just see yarn over part. Forget about the widths and bracket. Okay? Okay, next key point row is row 15. Okay, this is super easy. Just make a bubble. How to make a bubble. That's it. All right? So yarn over and now make bubble. Knit front, back, and one more front. So I make 3 stitch widths in 1 stitch and then turn, then purl 3. This is second row kinda, and turn, and row number 3, knit 3. Then turn and purl 3. That's it. So this is just a stockinette stitch for those 3 stitch, right? And then turn around your face into knitting side, yarn back, slip 1 knitwise, and knit 2 together. This is a little bit tight, so just take your time. It's really tough for me too under the camera. And then PSSO, pass the slip stitch over. And then there we go, bubble there. Okay? So row number 15, just bubble. Easy. And I guess, after this, pretty much same, yarn over, knit two together, SSK and all that, right? So just keep knitting. And again, row number 25, the leaf design kicks in. So till then, just knit for the leaf section. All right, so don't forget that. And I think I'll see you row number 39. Row number 39 has knit back loop, which we already did. So I don't really have to show you, but I just want to make sure one thing. Okay? So after this, see you on row number 39. Here it comes. So again, nothing, to worry on this row. I just want you to be careful that this is mixed with knit back loop and just a regular knit. So that's the only thing I want you to be careful. All right? That's it. And there we go. done. I just finished row number 48. It's beautiful. The flower and leaf, alternative. And then, change the needle size to 3 millimeter for me. And then start making rib. And again, because for the flower design, I use the knit back loop. So the rib should be repeat of purl 1 and KBL. Be careful. Don't start with knit back loop because the flower design ended up, purl 1 KBL, purl 1 KBL rib at the end of the flower design. So the rib should start same stitch. So the rib starts repeat of purl 1 and knit back loop until your desired length. This is the reason why I ask you to start with flower design. Okay? And after this, I am going to show you a super stretchy bind off. And if you're making much bigger size, not like a very fitted, sweater, you don't really have to use the super stretchy bind off. But, something new, it's nice to learn. So you can use any other, method. I've never used this super stretchy bind off before, so I'll show you how to do. Okay, so the first 2 stitch is kind of preparation. So purl and knit back loop. There you go. And then those 2, I am going to do kind of knit 2 together because the last stitch is knit. Okay, so keep the yarn back because knit 2 together. This is kind of weird way to do knit 2 together. Put the left needle in front of the right needle and then knit 2 together. This is really tight. I ended up, using just regular knit because this is way too tough to do. So anyway, next purl 1. So the yarn, working yarn out front. Keep the working yarn out front and put the left needle behind the right needle because I want to do purl 2 together this time. So this is the position for purl 2 together, right? That's why left needle behind. There we go. And next is knit. So I just did knit back loop, but you can do knit, just regular knit. And then put the left needle out front and then knit 2 together. Like a SSK type of knit 2 together. You know what I'm saying? And next is purl. So purl 1. Put the left needle into behind the right needle and make it purl 2 position, purl 2 together position, and purl 2 together. So you just have to do that, Next is knit, just knit. Then knit 2 together. If next stitch is purl 1, then purl 2 together. So it's a little bit confusing because you usually put the right needle in, then, knit two together or purl two together. This time you have to put the left needle back, right? So sometimes you get confused, but if you think carefully, you should be able to do that, okay? And again, because I'm using knit back loop technique here, it's quite tight and I didn't really like it, okay? So I'll show you with just a regular knit, much easier. And if you, pull too hard, it's going to be, too tight anyway. So anyway, so there you go. If it's hard to, to put the needle in, left needle into the, right side, you just slide two together back and then, whichever, easier for you. Okay? And just, do the one round. And it's a little bit wavy because obviously it's more fabric. But look at this. It's quite stretchy. I really like that. And next is sleeves. I already done one sleeve. Did the, same color transition and decrease the stitches towards to the wrist, add rib, then super stretchy bind off. So first, transfer all the sleeve stitches back onto needle. And I want you to add one marker just before the last stitch. This side is the, start, right? And that's the last stitch. I'm going to knit up in between first and last stitch. Above the new cast, we add. For me, I add 6 new cast. That's the start. However, I want you to take a look. There's a big gap in between last original stitch and first new cast. And the other side, same thing. That's last new cast. And between the first original stitch, there's a big gap. So I am going to knit up 2 extra each side of the gap. But second row, I am going to decrease those 2 extra. Okay? So I want you to look at this carefully. There is running thread after the last original stitch and before the new cast. I want you to knit up right there. And if you knit up with only one running thread, you create the big gap. So kind of there's divider stitch there. So 2 down, 1 down of the divider stitch, you pick that stitch and running thread. So now 2 stitch on the needle. Then knit up. So, connecting the new ball of yarn and next running thread. Then the left side of the previous stitch you have to pick up, then 2 thread on the needle, then knit up. Those 2 are the first 2 extra stitch after the last original stitch, You know what I'm saying? And if there is still a little gap, don't worry about it. Because, when you weave the ends off, you can try to minimize that gap. Anyway, and now knitting up just above the new cast. For me, 6 stitch. So 1, 2, 3. That's the center of new cast. So I am going to add begin marker. This is the reason why I ask you to add even number of the new cast when you connect front and back. And after you add begin marker, keep knitting up, and I just knit up 2, and before last new cast, put the marker. Okay, so if you add 8 cast, same thing. In the center of 8 cast, add begin marker, and just before the last new cast, add 1 more marker, right? And then in between last new cast and first original stitch, you have to knit up 2 extra with running thread. Okay? And use the the previous stitch near there, make it 2 on the needle and knit up. Okay, so first of all, you have to distinguish which is the running thread, and then grab the stitch around there to make the gap smaller. Okay, and then next round, I am going to decrease those 2 extra stitch to close the gap. Kind of, same way of short row closing gap technique. Anyway, so after you knitting up, knit all the way to the other side of the marker, which is just before the last original stitch, right? And again, that red marker, last original and 2 extra, I'm going to decrease 1, and then second extra and first new cast, I'm going to decrease 1 there. So I am going to decrease 2 stitch right there. That's the reason why I want you to add markers to make sure which stitch you will decrease. All right, 1 extra and 1 original. That's the set to decrease. And if you did fair isle for the body, the row count has already started. All right, for me, I knit 6 rows after the front and back connection. Then fair isle starts. So I want to do same color transition on the same level. So I have to count 6 rows while I'm connecting sleeves. Okay, don't forget that. And here comes knit around and reach to first marker, which is after the marker, there's the last original stitch and first knit up extra SSK to decrease and minimize the gap. And next stitch will be second extra and first new cast, knit 2 together to decrease second extra stitch and minimize the gap. Then knit and pass the begin marker, knit till the other side of the marker. There you go. Remove That will be the last new cast stitch and third extra SSK to decrease and minimize the gap. And the last will be fourth extra and first original knitted together. Okay, so this is it for the sleeve connection. So let's finish the color transition. I'm not going to tell you how to do. So for me, knit 5 more rows, then start color transition. And after the transition done, I talk about how to decrease the sleeve. All right? So, you know where the begin marker is, and that's where I am going to decrease. But it doesn't really matter with the color transition. The one thing I want you to be careful is color transition is repeat of 6 stitch, so has to be multiple of 6. So you have to count, okay, the stitch count, and if the stitch count is not multiple of 6, you have to adjust before the transition starts. That's same as body part. Okay, so as you can see, I'm done with the color transition. Now let me talk about the sleeve decreasing. Okay, I need 3 numbers. 1, current stitch count should be multiple of 6. I have 66 stitch. And 2, the goal stitch count, which is around the wrist. Okay, you wrapping around the bottom of the sweater, and then you can count. And for me, 46. And number 3, the length you want to knit without the rib. For me, 16 inches. So those 3 numbers I need. Again, I'm going to use my gauge template. But if you don't have my gauge template, unfortunately, you have to do little math. And I include the example in my written pattern. So you can do it. The math is simple. Okay, so I come back to my gauge template and let's figure it out how often I have to decrease for my sleeve. Okay, so here is my gauge information, right? So leave it as is. And second from top, right here, find out row count from the length. Okay, which means I need your 3 numbers, right? And one of them are the length, how much you want to knit without the lift for your sleeve. And my number was 16. I want to knit 16 inches. Okay, and I want to find out row count to reach 16 inches. So I am going to put my desired length here, 16 inch. Okay, and then just leave it there. And these 3 section, the pink section, sleeve, current stitch count. My stitch count was 66. And my goal stitch count, which is, before the rib, which is my wrist area, and 46. This means I have to decrease 20 stitches total while I'm knitting my sleeves. You know what I'm saying? And I am going to decrease 2 stitch at the same time in same row. All right? So those are the number you need to input here. And then let's go down. Okay, right here. So this pink section, the rows you will knit to reach your desired length. My desired length 16. I have to knit 116 rows to reach 16, right? And total decrease in stitch. And 2 stitch decrease on the same row. And here, I have to decrease 2 stitches every 11.6 rows. It's kind of tricky number. It's close to 12, but it's in the middle, right? So my case is I can't really pick 11 or 12 because if I pick 11, it's going to be a little shorter than I expected. And if it's 12, if I pick 12, it's going to be a little longer than, my desired length. So I am going to decrease 2 stitch right on the 11th row. And then next, I'm going to knit 12 rows. And right on the 12th row, I'm going to decrease 2 stitch. So that means I am going to decrease on 11th row, 23rd row, 34th row, 46 and 57. So 11 and 12, 11 and 12, something like that. That would be the perfect length when you knit, 116 rows. You know what I'm saying? So that's how you have to figure it out with my template. However, if you don't have my template, you have to figure it out, the number, manually. So here in my, written pattern, I include the math. And you just have to input your number here and do your little math. All right? So now let's move on to actual knitting. So according to my math, the first decreasing for me is on 11th row. And this is row 10, almost end of row 10. Here it comes. So start with 11th now. So soon as we start 11th, for me, I'm going to decrease. Knit 1 and knit 2 together. I decrease 1 stitch. And now you knit until last 3 stitch. Here comes. Now 3 stitch left and slip, slip, knit, SSK, and knit 1. That's it. And then knit around and around and around. For me, next decreasing would be 23, third. I don't know for you, and you just keep knitting. And then add rib, and rib should be repeat of KBL and purl 1. Then super stretchy bind off. That's about it. And this will be my last SSK, and should be 100 something rows to reach my desired length. There we go. It's beautiful. And now change the needle. I'm using 3 millimeter, and then repeat of KBL and purl 1. 1 by 1 ribbon. Nothing to worry about anymore. And use the super stretchy bind off, especially the wrist. Okay, you don't really want to, wear tight wrist sweater, uncomfortable, right? That's about it. It was so much fun to knit this project. Easy. Lace design. It's beautiful and fun. And if you use the pinkish color, it's great spring sweater. Right? So, enjoy knitting. Bye for now. Thank you for watching.